Hold it! Give up the God Hand, now!
Only thing I'm giving up is an ass kicking.
God Hand is madness. From its kooky cast to its silly premise, it's safe to say this game is a bit over the top. This unreserved nonsense extends to the gameplay. A tank-controlled beat-em-up with a dictionary of a moves list. It's not the most accessible thing out there. Its bizarre controls give the impression of a clunky mess that's different because why not? And the punishing dynamic difficulty doesn't hold prisoners. But with such a goodie bag of tricks, God Hand transcends its potential as a quirky little romp and earns its place at the big boy table. This thing's one of the most unique and versatile action games out there, so let's see what makes it work. A laundry list of attacks doesn't mean much if they're all the same. If you're not thinking about the actions you're performing in an action game, you're not thinking. Choosing between a 10 damage 15 frame punch and a slap of the same values isn't a relevant choice. Most games have some kind of trade-off with light and heavy attacks, between speed and doing piss for damage. While this works, it's not the most exciting thing out there. God Hand's strength isn't necessarily its number of moves, but what exactly they do. They affect an enemy's state. Instead of just damage at different speed, you can stun, juggle, break their guard, and so on. For a game sporting a story as dumb as this, it sure does work the old noggin, because you have to think about the influence you want to have on an enemy. You gotta think about taking certain enemies out for a bit, trip them up or launch them away so you can focus on one at a time. Of course, if you could just breeze through this thing by launching rude boys at the drop of a hat, there wouldn't be much game. That's why if your foe's just idling around, juggles and launches won't go quite as far as they could, and some of these greasy goons can't even be moved in the first place. Moves for tripping enemies up are often avoided, and kicks do damage, but not much else. Getting an enemy into a stunned state makes them more susceptible to these effects. For example, kick moves now launch the enemy across the screen, and juggles tend to get extra height. Or you can use the opportunity to bust a monster mash and lay down a graveyard smash. Not only does director Shinji Mikami get you thinking about more than using a move for how much wallop it brings, he's got you thinking about when to use them, what moves to set up other moves, and how they take on different roles depending on how these mooks are feeling. Planning ahead, tactics, it's like chess club, only there's girls. You know what else you have to do in chess? Take turns. God Hand's not about that life. If you're feeling cheeky, interrupt their wind-up to land a critical hit. And a critical hit, or a counter hit, doesn't just mean double the damage. It means your move properties are amplified. Remember when you couldn't launch enemies with kick moves until you'd stunned them? Can't live like that. Use it as a counter hit and it will work instantly. Timing hits for added stats when you're on the verge of getting hit yourself is a great risk-reward mechanic. To speed up the process, you have to jump right into harm's way. Act quick to look sick. Oh no, here he comes. Not just at the very start of attack chains either, any single attack an enemy performs can be counter-hit. Of course, you're not always starting attacks at the same time, don't just assume a quick jab will always guarantee you a counter-hit. When you fail a guard break, Gene will be sent into a stumble, and as this crook has already started his attack animation, even the quickest of jabs won't save you in time. If your only experience of the outdoors is the bus ride to Evo, then you may recognize this as frame advantage. As you're at a disadvantage, the best option is to dodge, as they don't have any startup animation. You can't just mash the controller and hope for the best. Again, you've got to think about exactly what moves you use. And you better master this for the difficulty level die. Alright, calm down, mate. On top of getting harder, better, faster, and stronger, these Daft Punks are less open than ever to launches or juggles. So if you're proud of making your way to this bad boy level, you better earn your right to stay. Paradoxically, going face to face with these quicker and more powerful attacks is the only way you're gonna survive. Counter hitting becomes essential on die because it's the only way to consistently guarantee bouncing these goofs around. Now I can tell I'm losing a few of you Wikipedia wise guys, so just to validate you video essay Venn diagram lovers, let me illustrate this with a chart. As we can see, on levels 1 to 3 it is easiest to launch an enemy. However, on level die it is much harder. With a counter hit.
Boring.
Oh, alright, that there was a taunt, a mechanic introduced in 2001 by the legendary Devil May Cry. In DMCs 1 through 3, taunting freezes you for a second to boost your style, but in God Hand it works a little more like the wrist exercise routine known as Bayonetta, in that it actually makes enemies more aggressive. In return for this, you get a chunky boost to your level gauge and juice for your Devil Trigger mode. But what's the point in aggravating these dickheads if I can't avoid their attacks? Where's the dodge button? What the fuck? No, stick around, it actually makes some sense. God Hand has a pretty unique dodging system. Flick the right stick backwards for a backflip, to the side for a sidestep, and forward for a duck. These will come with pros and cons. The backflip is beginner friendly, but it kills your momentum and don't do it too early. The sidestep's a good all-rounder. It's quicker than the backflip, but can mess you up by throwing you right into a crowd of attacks. And the duck is definitely the riskiest, but is food for your level gauge and makes a great setup for a counter hit. Again, this isn't just about timing. As much as anything, God Hand's a game about positioning and spacing. The duck isn't just a quick dodge, it lets you evade high attacks, so you still leave yourself open to any vertical movements, low kicks, or grabs. Similarly, the sidestep may get you out of some punches, but a sweeping horizontal attack will still catch you off guard. Some attacks even adjust your position, meaning you can incorporate dodges into the moves themselves. The sidestep isn't just an evasive action either, but a way to reorientate yourself around your environment. To launch one guy into a whole crowd, catch two people in one contextual button prompt, or push someone over the edge. Speaking of environment, the whole casino, Wild West setting, it's perfect. This truly is a lawless move list. Anything goes when you have the bitch slap bicep. Throw an explosive barrel at a crowd, kick someone into outer space, go through someone and... What? I'm not ecstatic about activating these super duper moves with R1 when you've read enough books, but at least they're still moves. They adhere to everything we've talked about so far, being used for different effects like launching or crowd control. Most of the time you're still choosing moves based on the situation you're in rather than just looking for the best one. The funky forearm itself I'm not as fond on. I mean, I appreciate it just because it saves my ass so much, but at the same time I could put a jackhammer to the square button for all the tactics that come with using it. I mean, it turns you invincible. If you're gonna make me immune to damage, you may as well turn my brain off as soon as I hit R2. If using these things makes you feel like a Chuck E. Cheese chucklefuck cheater, you can try the Kick Me sign challenge. You get to keep it if you never unleash the power of the God Hand. Use one of these once and it's gone. You can also try this on a hard difficulty run if you're mental. I don't know why you'd want to miss out on these anyway. The ball buster is so good, right? Like, haha, funny meme move, but it's actually an easy tool for getting enemies into a stunned state. Even better, it doesn't work on female enemy types. It's brilliant. I mean, that's attention to detail and punishing players for not thinking about what they're using moves on. If you're tired of busting your own balls, try the dedicated grovel animation. Somewhat like Shinji Mikami's own Resi 4, God Hand has a dynamic leveling system. Perform poorly and pick up petty prizes, or ball with the best and bag bitchin' bounty. If you fluked your way to hell and want to turn off the heat, then get on your knees. God Hand has no problem with making you swallow a hard challenge. There's absolutely no leeway on this level, so it's time to get Good Hand. Even your first run, where you'll likely stick around the lowest level, the game will kick your teeth in. At least it kicked mine in. If you do manage to beat it because you don't just pretend to like Dark Souls for street cred at the unemployment center, then you'll unlock hard mode, which, well, I've never personally been waterboarded, but back when I made videos, I praised Bayonetta's enemies for putting up a fight, and they certainly do here. All this stuff works because you have an incentive to use it. You're mix and matching these moves to gain an advantage, to weasel out of a sticky situation. Damn, I'm getting pummeled. Maybe I should stun one of them so I can set him up for a launch and send a group of them flying. What's the point in influencing the battlefield if it doesn't pose a threat in the first place? Capping off this mechanical train ride is this Subway sandwich of a menu. All but a few moves can be rebinded to the chain of attacks or otherwise. I mean, sure, you could try making a chain of the most powerful moves in the game, but you're gonna get your ass god-handed to you for not thinking about the animation startup. All that focus on timing, status inflictions, spacing, it all comes to a head when you have to decide for yourself what stays and what goes. What moves can you use to set up other moves? Do you prioritize damage dealers or multi-hit moves for stuns even though you're not cool enough to cancel out of them? This system is cool as hell, but while you'll naturally juggle the list around as you get moves that deal more damage, it would be cool to mix and match this in a less clunky way. I'd kill to see it done like Bayonetta, where you establish different sets and then get to flip between them on the fly. Yeah, do that in the next God Hand. Look, it's not perfect. Fast action games with a 30 frames cap are like barbecues with HP sauce. Also, a game with this many moves is bound to have some that are just objectively better than others. If you let all that put you off though, you're doing yourself a disservice. God Hand is crazy good, but not because it throws a lot of shit at the wall. Instead, because this is an interlinking system. Your effectiveness depends on your dodging, your timing, move effects, enemy type, animation times, status, environment, difficulty level, taunts. These multiply resulting in a fighting system where you've constantly got to think about what you're doing and do so in time. Thanks to a lot of relevant options, there's a lot to process in the heat of the moment. If you're cool, you won't even need a recommendation, but if you get your kicks taking the piss out of that IGN review and won't even give the game a shot over the latest body pillow simulator, then fix your fucking life, weeb. Its strange controls can take some getting used to, but once it clicks harder than an arthritic dolphin masseuse and makes for some of the most frantic heights of any game I've played. There's nothing else quite like it. We won't get a God Hand sequel, that's just how the world works. So for now, you may as well kick back with this one of a kind. It's been a while, right? Wacky release schedules like this are why my Patreon is set up per video rather than per month. Damn, what a segue, and look, here come my $5 backers, certified lads, right here. So if you want to pop over to Patreon and lend me a God Hand, that would be pretty sweet. Okay, that sounds like a bad enough pun to end this video on.